Hey traders, checking out of the stock market today. Bulls keeping control for the most part, but seeing some weakness in some places. Tesla earnings after hours and a reaction from the cryptocurrency space. Let's check out the charts. So checking in on the S&P 500, we did get some follow through. We had our resistance level after yesterday still in play. Bull break, but again, just a reminder, we are now zooming out and watching for the possibility of a weekly lower high. We have weekly EMA 12 resistance. Anything under 4204 is a lower high, and that resistance level from where we closed today is still roughly 6% away. So I am a little bit cautious at this point as a bull and headed into today only with bull exposure after my stutter step frustrating stop outs that I talked about yesterday as far as missing the bull move, but better day today. And made up for it in terms of getting my green back, at least a bit. So, S&P 500 4-hour bull flag from extended hours last night confirmed, but a lack of follow through right now. So what does it mean? It means we're keeping an eye out for the possibility of daily consolidation. And that's just what I'm keeping an eye out for the next couple of days. And then from there, we'll watch for a daily high or low because we have a lot of space for it to form. But this is a potential rising wedge that is worth keeping an eye on. If we confirm this hourly downtrend in after hours, then the rising wedge breaks bear, and we then zoom out and watch for daily consolidation to be underway to scout a daily high or low to be the result of that consolidation. So one of the reasons that I'm keeping an eye out for daily consolidation is honestly Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. It just feels like we're a bit tired in the short term after a significant bull move over the weekend into starting this week. And so when I feel it in one sector, I keep an eye out for it in the other. NASDAQ was a little bit stronger today. 4-hour time frame, you can see the bull flag has more convincing follow through and can't really draw the same kind of rising wedge that I have on the S&P 500. It's not as clear. Something along these lines, but you can see that even if we did confirm this hourly downtrend, it's possible to maintain the 4-hour uptrend, whereas the S&P 500 4-hour support is right below that hourly level. So we'll see what overnight gives us. It was another day where, again, every morning, the past couple days, I only have bull exposure overnight, and that's been working out fortunately, but I head into the morning and say, okay, I want a bearish position to protect against any possible consolidation. And I just watched the major sectors first thing, and QQQ has done the same thing 3 mornings in a row where it sets the low of the day, and then once it's set, it does not break. So low of the day, bounce, gave back more than the bulls want, rejection from resistance, little 2-minute higher low if you were zoomed in, bulls in complete control. And so I started this morning shorting the financial sector because pre-market, it was the furthest to go to break the high of yesterday. 32.71 high of yesterday, so a little bull move to start, but we reject. So I had a nice little short, took half the position off when I saw strength everywhere else, and then I recognized that the bear breaks were lacking follow through and that this was a potential falling wedge, which indeed it was. And so stopped out with a tiny loss there, and then let the bull positions ride on the morning, and then took some trades in some of the other volatile names. Again, we have a ton of volatility in these crypto stocks and the cannabis sector. And so that's where I've been focusing my day trading because there's great volatility in both directions. We'll get to those in just a minute. SMH, nice follow through for bulls. So watching for the potential of a sell the news reaction to the bill passing, but still following through. Pelosi still raking it in. And so the hourly uptrend intact, hourly higher low is 224.83 for the bull to try and maintain complete control. And again, when we lose the hourly uptrend, a name like this has a ton of space for the daily higher low to form as a result of the next consolidation. And one of the observations we will be making, what does first hourly oversold conditions look like? Does that mark the daily higher low? Because if it does, that shows us conviction from the bulls. And essentially, when hourly oversold marks your daily higher low, and when 5-minute oversold marks your hourly higher low, I just imagine a bunch of people trying to rush to the front of the line to buy something. And so that shows me a significant demand. And when it doesn't, then there's that less significant demand. Tesla earnings reaction are a dud as far as being completely uneventful. Bull move initially gave it all back, and we're trading right in the middle of the tight range that we traded within yesterday. That's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? As a trader, we're still tight on this equilibrium. So I never like when earnings are the reason for the break, because I then don't have an opportunity to play that break. But we are tightening up. Let's look at the 2-day time frame. And if we pull back from here, rejecting from 765, it's just a lower high. And we're then watching our support of 675 to see if the bulls are able to maintain that little higher low there. But again, this is one of the longest drawn out tightening ranges that we've seen in a very long time. Tesla over the last couple of years has either been straight up, big pullback, straight up, big pullback, straight up, big pullback, not this sideways. So that sideways will break, and volume and volatility will be the result. Healthcare, another day where it stood out as a lead bear. I have to see a bear break of 125.23 to rule out this. It won't rule out the inverse head and shoulders. It'll just make it less likely. We can say that if 125.23 holds, it's an inverse head and shoulders, because if you're not going to break that support, however long it takes, you're going to eventually break that resistance. But if you break that support, still possible to hold the low. But again, that then just makes the distance required to break resistance that much more significant. So again, it's always probabilities. And I can look at a pattern and say, if this level holds, it's going to be this pattern. And if this level breaks, then the probabilities significantly diminish that it's going to be that pattern. So financial sector, bulls holding on strong. 32.87 is still resistance. And we're still not in a daily uptrend. So we know if we're going to believe that this move can have follow through whenever we do top out and lose the hourly uptrend, we must confirm the daily trend change from there. IWM, bull break with follow through, definitely a lead bull today. Lack of resistance with where we stand here. 181.55 broke, so now we're looking at 183.53 gap fill. Still a weekly downtrend, but an hourly uptrend. So we have a nice hourly support. When you have a day like yesterday, you don't have as clear a guide. You know that the next time we pull back, we are going to form an hourly high or low unless there's significant bear news. So when you have a midday hourly support level, tomorrow we have something a lot closer nearby that's an actionable level. If 179.34 breaks, we lose the hourly uptrend, and the probability for daily consolidation increases significantly. But again, IWM is just another name with a lot of space for a daily higher low to be the result of next consolidation. The way that I'm looking for the next, what's today, Wednesday? The next 4 days to play out into the FOMC is we're going to find a top, we're going to pull back and find a daily higher low, and then it's going to be FOMC, in my opinion. So I'm watching for that rough framework. I don't know exactly where or exactly when, but I know that's the rough framework that I'm watching, and it's the hourly trend that's going to give us clues for that. The biotech sector started the morning extremely strong, and then the relative weakness started to really present itself. And again, I show you the relative strength and weakness chart to be an easy visual, but I'm not looking at that through the day. I'm just observing, and it clearly stands out to me. If I'm watching SPY and QQQ, we'll just use SPY as the example, which was a little bit weaker than QQQ. But look at SPY on the morning. We top out at 10:45. We bull flag to 11:15, and then we see a new high of the day. We top out at 10:45. There's no higher low. So I'm watching this. I'm watching the biotech sector continue to pull back while QQQ and SPY confirm a 15-minute bull flag. It's glaringly obvious that there is relative weakness in the biotech sector. I also played this bounce off a 15-minute EMA 12, and it was a small win. Fortunate to get out quickly enough, recognizing a 15-minute lower high was the most likely scenario. What I didn't do well was jump right into a short, because I knew I would be scouting for a 15-minute lower high. Nope, wrong post. But made a post playing that bounce, and I was just observing the bounce playing out, or attempting to play out, and just recognizing consistent downward selling pressure. And it was specifically, it was 85.50, where we would get over 85.50 on that bounce, and then just reject, and it was a reappearing ask. Whenever you see that reappearing ask, I guess it was 85.55. But we just kept getting over it, but then kept rejecting. Eventually, we did get a little follow through, and that's where I ended up selling. But it dropped so fast that I didn't really have time to flip bearish. But I was bearish the S&P 500. But obviously, being bearish the biotech sector would have been much more profitable. Much more. I mean, that is a 8% drop on LABD. So what does that mean? That means I'm scouting an hourly lower high tomorrow, absolutely, because the daily time frame is a bull break with an upper wick, so it's lacking follow through. Bears will have to confirm the hourly downtrend to prove to me that there is some follow through on the relative weakness. But again, it's just a weekly stair-step move, and we know weekly consolidation will be inevitable, so I'm just keeping an eye out for it. I'm not playing overly aggressive bearish, but there are drops multiple times this week that have been very worthwhile for bears. Even though it doesn't get significant daily follow through, it's certainly very worthwhile as a day trader. MARA, so a little bit of a temporary top it looks like. Potential volume climax. Talked yesterday in the video about looking for a gap up to potentially help mark a top, and then looking for first 5-minute oversold conditions. So we got both of those. We got the gap up, bull move, and then as soon as we hit the new low of the day, when it's that early in the morning on a gap up, that's a red flag. Watch out for daily consolidation. We hit 5-minute oversold at 12.57, the back burner bounce. And I'm going to post a link for the free ebook. Many of you have already seen it, but ebook about the back burner. So I'll post that in the comments of this video because it's certainly relevant. But 5-minute oversold conditions, back burner bounce with follow through all the way up to 8%. Very worthwhile. And there are other back burners to be watching in the cannabis sector. So from here on MARA, we're looking for an hourly lower high. Tesla News, with its earnings, they sold 75% of their Bitcoin position. So the Bitcoin dump from 40,000 to under 20,000 and the extreme capitulation was absolutely fueled by Tesla. And they sold for a loss, and they sold for an average of 55% off the high. So we need to get Elon Musk watching these videos to help him learn to take profit into strength and help avoid capitulation and selling when everybody's rushing to the exit at the same time. So that definitely explains some of the downward pressure in crypto, but Bitcoin dropped after hours in response to that. And so these crypto stocks are going to be testing their lows of yesterday, potentially first thing tomorrow. And again, we'll be watching for hourly back burners. So we're going to be watching for daily consolidation and first hourly oversold conditions. Canadian cannabis with follow through. So again, risk on. Everything that was extremely beat up, the biotech sector did it first, but everything that was extremely beat up saw everybody on one side of the boat and the boats flipped. And so this is a mini short squeeze. It doesn't look massively impressive, but it was a 50% bounce over the span of 5 days. You're averaging a 10% move a day, which is obviously very significant. And you look at this entire drop and this 5-day bounce, percentage-wise, is half of this entire drop, more than half of this entire drop. Hourly, trying to form a little bull flag, so support 293 tomorrow. But again, I'm keeping an eye out for shorts. Fidelity ran out of shorts on CGC and TLRY, but we know that this little hype move is going to top out. We haven't changed the daily trend, so I'm just keeping an eye out for that potential top, because when we do top, it's a very easy 20% pullback. So again, don't need to nail the top and the bottom of that pullback. There will be plenty of meat in the middle of the move, but also don't want to get stuck in a short squeeze, so doing so carefully. And TLRY, I was trading it in both directions today. So TLRY shorted I shorted the 4-hour at the $4 psychological level, out half, then stopped out, then shorted that, out half, and I did exit the other half too soon. I should have put my stop over the high of the day. That was a mistake. I put my stop over 405 here. That was a big mistake. Not a costly mistake, but a very clear Dumbo move. Could have had another 5% down. And then I went long on this 5-minute higher low. I know I'm looking for an hourly higher low. And I talked about this. I was live streaming crypto, but I went over this trade while I was live streaming and entered 387, sold half 390, sold the other half 395 when I knew I wasn't going to swing it because the bulls didn't get back towards the high of the day into the close. So keeping an eye out for temporary tops in cannabis, and USMJ sold off into the close, big upper wick, a lot of space for an hourly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. But again, these sectors have great volatility for day traders in both directions, and the volume and liquidity is very significant as well. Dollar starting to get a daily bounce going, or attempting to. Definitely some more follow through needed. We will be watching for a daily lower high. Bears must confirm a daily downtrend if we're going to say anything about monthly consolidation potentially shaping up. Metals keep dumping. Gold just hit fresh lows. I'm watching for gold weekly oversold conditions, but again, this is just complete bear control. To not bounce at all in any meaningful way while the dollar drops notably, and then to drop to fresh lows when the dollar sees a tiny bit of green, it just shows us complete bear control still. If we get to weekly oversold, I will establish a position for a weekly bounce. But here we are coming up on monthly supports in the 1670s. Maybe those are bottom fishing levels. Depends on how we get there. Silver's holding on better than gold, but again, daily EMA 12, keep it simple. If it's resistance, bulls aren't doing a thing. Oil, inside bar. If it breaks bear, we watch for the inverse head and shoulders. So still hovering right under resistance. And natural gas following through with its 4-hour uptrend. You want to talk volatility. And the fact is there's leveraged ETFs and futures. This is a drop of 44%, 45% drop into a 50% bounce in the span of 7 weeks. That is such massive opportunity in both directions for volatility lovers. Still watching for a weekly lower high. And again, the daily doesn't even have a clear trend change. It just went straight up. Hourly 12-hour higher lows have been nice and clear. All right. I think that's it. Keep an eye out for BITI daily bounce. If we see signs that Bitcoin is indeed topping out, this is an inverse ETF to Bitcoin. Doesn't have a lot of trading history. Watching Bitcoin for a potential 4-hour head and shoulders. Nice bounce. Bulls played defense. Double bottom at 22.9. Burden on bears to confirm that this is a 4-hour head and shoulders. We still have a 4-hour uptrend on Bitcoin at this point. So even with the bearish reaction to Tesla earnings, impressive defense. And again, it is hindsight information. So you can look at it and say, well, that's bearish because an extremely popular company and one of the richest men in the world, who was a big Bitcoin supporter, is clearly showing his support waning a bit. But you can also look at it and say, well, all those coins were already sold. That explains a lot of the downward selling pressure. And we don't have to worry about those coins being sold. They now have new owners. But all about 22.9. And if we do see weakness, BITI is a way to benefit in the stock world. Do good things. See ya tomorrow.
All right, it's potato harvesting time. This is a giant basil bush. But all these potato plants mostly dead. These are now all the bitter melons that I didn't plant, but there's seeds left over from last year. And that was unintentional, but perfect timing as far as swapping out. But potatoes are the best, my favorite thing to harvest, because everything else you see the harvest growing, but potatoes are a big surprise. It's like buried treasure. You never know what you're gonna get. So you get rid of the dead plant. You can see this is the purple variety. Was that a snake? Jesus. Yes, it is. All right, we're gonna leave him alone. On to the next one. Definitely a harmless little snake, but don't want to mess with him. Oops. These are all little ones so far, getting a little bigger the deeper you go. Not bad, medium size, but a bunch of them. They look real good when you rinse them off. So again, all this came from one spud, which is, you can take one potato, and for every eye that's on the potato, you can cut that into a piece that becomes a plant. And so essentially with one potato, you can make 4, 5, 6 different plants. And so the exponential gains, and as far as taking care of them, you hill them a couple times. So I stacked some dirt on them twice, but didn't have to water them ever. We get nice water here, but pretty much very low-key maintenance. And so I always missed harvesting some of these, and so next year, like that potato right there, I didn't plant it. That was from last year, where I just missed some. And so that's gonna pop up into its own plant. Pretty good. I'll show you in a second. I always grow too many, so I have a buddy that started a farmer's market in the town over. Bring them there and give them away. So that's one plant. So definitely worthwhile, and they store. Leave the dirt on them. It's like a little protective coating. Wash them if you're going to give them to people, but they last months and months, and the ones that didn't last are everything that I planted. And we've got all those ones in the compost pile that were extra that I got to go harvest eventually as well. And those are your potatoes.